Stuart Pearce is on the show today. He's obviously an iconic footballer.
Yeah.
Who would be the footballers you used to watch growing up? Your favourite footballers?
Favourite footballers? Well, the reason I support Liverpool. Ian Rush.
Ian Rush?
Oh,
he could score a goal, couldn't he?
Oh, he was incredible. He was there everywhere, Welsh icon, and I always think, thank God, because people say, I'm 52, and people go, oh, do you wish you were younger? No, because if I was younger, I'd probably, I'd probably be supporting Man United now, because of Mark Hughes and Giggsy and that, so I'm happy.
Ian Rush.
Ian Rush.
He looked like he had a permanent suntan as well, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Always had the tash.
He's some player.
Oh. Yeah.
David Ginola, Alan Shearer, Tino Asprilla.
Yeah.
For me, maybe Gianfranco Zola,
I
think were the sort of people that you'd pay to go and watch, really.
I used to love Man U, but I don't really support a team. But back in the 80s and the sort of early 90s, you had such a great team. Like Brian Robson was amazing. Mark Hughes was there.
Yeah.
Paul Ince a little bit later on. But there were some proper iconic players there.
I also like the goalkeepers, Peter Schmeichel. I don't know, it was related really with rugby, didn't you? Because they were
big and strong.
They were big and strong and sort of, I don't know.
Shouted at everybody else.
Yeah, basically.
What about songs pre-match? Get you hyped up.
I used to listen to 2001 Lions Tour. I only took one CD with me, and that was Angels, Robbie Williams.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because you have your individual music taste, and then you have sort of albums, songs that you remember. Oasis was, funny enough, and I'm sure Stuart Pearce will talk about this, but it was Oasis 1997.
Yeah.
They just released that album, and Wonderwall ended up being the
That's all we sang with me.
the song of that particular. Even though there are some awesome other tracks on that album, I think. For our England team, Eminem, there was a couple of Eminem songs.
Lose Yourself.
Lose Yourself.
I love Eminem's.
Yeah, so.
Who would do music in the women's team?
So Mo Hunt was always fighting for that DJ spot. And to be fair, she was pretty decent. But as I was coming towards the end of my career, my music tastes and the kids' music tastes.
Well, it's cool, because then it becomes a lot more house, trance,
oh my
whatever.
God, massively.
And then you've got people like Martin Johnson, Dorian West looking at each other going, what the fuck are we listening
Literally.
Did I tell you Sean Edwards banned music once because he claimed that the beat was too quick and it sort of, your brain couldn't understand the beat and your brain would relax a little bit because it was too fast. So he banned music for one game. We got hammered by South Africa.
So what, you just sat in silence?
Yeah, so music then was allowed back in then.
See, you're in the England squad. I said, that's right, boss. He said, do you think you're good enough? I said, I'm not sure. He went, I don't, get out.
That was it?
That was word for word. The nervousness that I felt from the crowd, they were more nervous for me than I was, and I was papping myself.
It's one of the great sporting moments in this country. Yeah. Your face, I'll never forget it, mate. It was unbelievable.
I was a Russian goalkeeper called Yak Yanson.
You never got rumbled?
No, are you kidding? He got 5 Russian caps.
Gazza's playing tennis against some random hotel guest.
Bobby says, where's the idiot? He said, it weren't me. He's got the tennis racket next to him. He said, Roy Keane played right wing for us. I said, who's Roy Keane? Why don't you warm up, Kenny? He looked at his watch and went, I get paid hour and a half, I ain't doing any more. I said to Carol, I think one of the Forest players has pegged it or something. And then they show the board and it's me.
How are you? Nice to see you.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be
great
here.
pleasure, mate. Great pleasure.
Good to see me breaking code and coming in
I
as
know.
an outsider.
I know.
Wow.
Do you feel scared?
Very.
So,
He can outrun all of
If
us.
you had to fight one of them, which one would you pick?
You. I'd go straight for you.
I'd go for Shanks.
Chances are.
I'd go for him,
That's
definitely.
insider trading now, isn't it?
Don't mess with
That'd be the
Katy.
worst
and,
mistake you've ever made?
Huh?
So that'd be the worst mistake.
Do you hear him whisper that then?
I know.
He couldn't even commit. That's the worst mistake you've
When I
ever
did
made.
the stick. Right, should we get on with it? So, Stuart, welcome to Sticks of
Welcome.
Rugby. We've got
Pleasure to be here.
one of the most iconic sportsmen, Stuart Pearce, Psycho. Thank you for joining us. I believe you're our first non-rugby guest. So, yeah.
Privileged.
So crossing over the divide. Now, listen, I was going to say we like a warm-up, but we don't really. Scott his warm-up took about 30 seconds, really, before he was
Deep
ready
beat.
to play.
That's all, just put deep beat
You
on.
know what? When I never used to go out on the pitch and warm up.
Yeah.
when I first turned pro, one of the old pros was in there, and he never used to go out on the pitch, and I did as a kid, and I kept looking at him, and for a couple of months I thought, I need to ask him, why don't he go and warm up? Yeah. So after a couple of months, got the nerves to go say to him, why don't you warm up, Kenny? He looked at his watch and went, I get paid an hour and a half, I ain't doing any more. That's what he said to me. And I thought, you know what, if it's good enough for you, it's got to be good enough for me. So I never used to go and warm up. I used to do it all inside.
Yeah, don't give anyone any ideas.
What were the tricks? What were the tricks? Was it a bit of stretching, a bit of high knees?
Everything was set to a clock. Yeah. So, you know, it's getting changed at a certain time, up and down the corridor for a warm-up to get the pulse rate up, kicking against the wall, stretching off with a physio. Everything was on the clock, dogged, until one day at West Ham, they changed my clock.
What?
One of the players, John Moncur, changed my clock, and he changed it by about 20 minutes. As a wind-up. I didn't know. The rest of the players were in
forward or back?
Well, I was stood at the door waiting to go out, probably half hour before I was supposed to have gone there.
Where's everybody?
Because I was so dogmatic on the clock, I was oblivious to anything else going on.
Why is he
not fired up here? Where is everyone?
Were you one that got fired up though? Were you sort of?
Oh yeah.
Did you have to get yourself to that level to perform?
Yeah, everything. Well, to drive the rest of the team. If you're captain in the team, there was an expectation that you pushed on and you led from the front. And the first minute, the first tackle, you had to get the fans to the party in the game. You know the rules.
Do you know my takeaway from this? You had a wind-up clock. yeah. I had to wind the clock. You can rewind for 20 minutes.
That's it.
You can imagine it. What did you say, John Moncur? Who was it?
John Moncur.
John Moncur. Yeah. Do you know what? We'll wind Pearcey up. But if he asks who did it, tell him it wasn't me.
Yeah.
Do you know when it's really funny, but the person on the receiving end just couldn't, at any given time, say, really good. I was livid.
What did you
touch
do?
my preparation. Blah, blah, blah. Well, I had to reset and go back to my warm-up again and come back in after doing all of it.
Literally the full thing again?
But we actually have heard about your love of music. We knew about your love of music, so we're going to ease you in.
Yeah.
With KDM has got a nice little...
I do enjoy your little quiz, okay? So this is called Punk or Punked.
Ooh,
okay?
Nice.
So I'm going to give you a band, and you have to say Punk if you think it's a legitimate band name, or Punked if you think they've made it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Stuart Pearce.
Punked.
Punk.
Punk.
There you go.
It's a band.
Yeah, it's an actual band
man.
named after you. Psycho Cats.
Oh.
Punked.
Yes, correct.
Good name.
Mosh Pit Monkeys.
I'm going punk.
No, Punked. Not real.
Good name again.
Boris the Sprinkler. This is my personal favourite.
Please be punk.
Yeah, you're right.
Thank you.
It's real. The Misfits of Fortune.
There are a band called The Misfits who I've seen, but I don't know whether there's a Misfits of Fortune. I would say punked.
Correct. Forest Fantasy.
Punked.
Yep. Naked Aggression.
Got to be punk.
Yeah.
Scott's the lead singer.
Maybe nobody listening if I was the lead singer, let me tell you.
Cockney Rejects.
I've seen them.
Yeah.
Punk.
And the last one, the Circuit Breakers.
I've never heard of them, but my electrical pass says please be punk.
No, Punked.
No.
Do you still get to plenty of gigs then?
I go to one a week.
Do you?
Yeah, last one I went to was the Tony Smith, the rugby league coach,
yeah,
Warrington coach.
Yeah.
His son's in a thrash metal band called Divine Hatred. We went to see him in Leeds last Saturday night. As I say, I do one a week.
Incognito? Do you have to like put a balaclava on?
The good thing is, no more than usual, but that's another story. The good thing is, when you go to the genre of music I like, people that are not so much football fans or sports fans, they're into their music.
Yeah,
so they expect to see you there, whatever band you go.
What's this thing they do? It might not be punk music, it might be something else, but sort of people around the outside, and then there's one person in the middle just swinging arms like this.
That was Saturday night. I'd not seen that before, but that's more thrash metal.
Yeah.
Is what I saw. Like, the kids all go around the outside, and one kid will come flying in, and literally, it looks like a fist fight if you didn't know.
Yeah.
And Tony's son used to support other bands. So there's about 4 bands on, and they all do a 20-minute session.
Yeah.
the other bands all come and get in the crowd and go crazy. He was in the crowd, swinging around like that, broke another kid's nose.
Oh, no.
So the other kid said to him, right, outside, let's sort this out. They've gone outside and become the best of friends.
And they harmonised.
Yeah, they did.
And Stu, I mean, it seems obvious, but why punk? Was it because the age you are, growing up, the bands, I mean, the punk movement was huge, right? Yeah. And was it just the right place, right time? I mean, what was the first punk gig you went to growing up?
Probably right place and right time, 100%. I was born in West London, same birthplace as The Clash, Shepherd's Bush Way and that type of thing. And when I was 14, it was 1976, 77, I was 15, and, that era, the punk explosion happened. It was incredible, got washed along with it, loved the music. We played in the Euros in 96, and they give us a Sunday off, so we played Spain at Wembley. Terry Venable said, right, you're off Sunday. So the players are looking, so Gazza and Dave Seaman want to go fishing, some players want to go home, you can do what you want. I used to get the New Music Express and Sounds for the gig guide in those days, The Pistols have reformed and they're playing at Finsbury Park. So I'm thinking Iggy Pop on the list, Stiff Little Fingers on the list, Skunk and Nancy, thinking brilliant, what a gig that is. So I say to Terry, I don't tell him who's playing. I said, there's a bit of music going on over a park is it all right? Yeah, whatever you want to do, no problem. Just take a few of the staff with you, just to make sure you're okay. So I'm thinking, brilliant. I sat to Gareth, Southgate, I said, Gate, do you fancy a gig tomorrow? So I didn't tell him who it was either. He said, yeah, all right, I'm not doing anything. So off we go across to Finsbury Park. They say, come in and meet the band. So we pop in to meet the band, and they say, here, I'll stick this T-shirt on. So Gareth's put his Pistols T-shirt on. Never seen him before in his life. Never been to a gig.
Didn't strike me as a sort of punk bloke, really.
No, and I don't think he's ever been to another one. You know what I mean?
Savage Garden, isn't he?
And they say, go on and can you introduce us on stage? So,
wow.
Why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? So we go and do that, and I'm looking at the weekend, and I'm thinking, you score for your country at Wembley, and the Sex Pistols reformed, and you play on the Sunday. I don't think it's ever got better than that.
If you could live one of those days again.
It'd probably be...
Yeah, you got it.
Well, it's funny,
amazing, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is amazing.
You've run out in front of the biggest, crowds in the world sometimes in some of the greatest ever stadiums, but you'd still think, must it be like to play a gig at Wembley or to play at Live Aid or something like that? It's incredible, isn't it?
I think musicians want to be footballers or want to be sportsmen, and sportsmen want to be musicians. That's the crossover,
I get that.
isn't it?
I heard that one of our own, Mike Tyndall, I think you took him to a gig, did you?
We were working for TalkSport together, myself, him and Colin Murray, and the three of us are talking, and we're talking about bands and what bands you support, you follow, and what football teams you supported as a kid, that type of thing. And Mike just turned round. We said, what football team did you support, Mike? He went, no, I never supported a team. I went, OK. I said, well, what rugby team did you follow? He went, never supported a rugby team. We said, you must do. It's physically impossible that you don't follow a band, don't follow a football team, don't follow a rugby, nothing. Nothing come back from him. It was just like that.
He was just into the royalty.
Just into the royalty in a big way, by all accounts. I don't know what happened there, but hey.
You can name all the past kings and queens.
He can now.
So we say to him, if we took you to a gig, would you come? He said, yeah, of course. So Stranglers are playing at Brixton Academy. Brilliant. That's his first ever gig, I think, or first ever proper gig in my world.
Yeah.
So we took him to the gig. He absolutely loved it a bit. So I think he got on the shant a little bit, you know what I mean?
Sound like him, doesn't
Had a bit of fun, you know what I mean? So, so that was his introduction to the Stranglers.
Now listen, we're going to talk about your incredible football career shortly, but you've talked us through your health at the moment. How are you now? Because I know you had, for context, you had a bit of an issue on the way back from Las Vegas, was it?
Yeah,
talk us through what the situation was. I mean, it could have been very serious, turned out to be okay in the end, but still serious enough.
Yeah, it was, we went out to Vegas to watch the rugby. They took the third game of the season, Warrington versus Wigan, out to Vegas. Just on the way back, my heart felt as though someone sort of stood on my chest, but you know it's like, I'll deal with it when we get back to England. Got on the plane, tried to sleep it off, weren't doing that. I said to Carol, I said, you better go and tell the staff. I said, I didn't get my wording right at this stage. I said to her, I don't think I'm going to make London. I mean, you better tell them I'm now, because I'm not going to make London. I'm going to die before London.
Paris.
But I got my wording wrong.
Sounds like an album cover, that.
Doesn't it? So they were brilliant. I got to say, they hooked us up to a monitor, sent the recordings down to the doctor on the ground. Yeah. Put me on oxygen. They were fantastic. Wow. And then after another 2 hours of flying, they said the doctors advised us to drop you off. So they dropped me off in St John's in Newfoundland. My resting heart rate was on 155. So upwards. So it was crazy. It was just like running a marathon. They reckon a virus attacked the heart, like you get a head cold virus. This one attacked my heart and done that. So I come off the plane. They turned round and said, "Where have you been?" I said, "Well, Las Vegas, Sin City, 5 days." "Oh, OK, fine." So they're looking, thinking, yeah, I can see where this is going. Yeah. They said, "Do you drink?" "No." "Do you take drugs?" "No." "Do you smoke?" "No." "Any history in the family?" "No." So I'm sat there thinking, shit, the only wriggle room I got is give up cheddar cheese at this stage, you know what I mean? Ridiculous, like. And that's non-negotiable, I like my cheese. So they take me to hospital, I have 5 days there, they try to get my heart rate to a normal, you know, I'm 55 resting heart rate normally. So basically, after 5 days, they stopped my heart and then restarted it again.
Joking? Yeah. Oh, wow.
And then next day, sent me out of hospital. I had 5 days in a hotel, so we had 10 days in Canada, and then.
Well, I'm not being funny, Pearcey, but you are, you know, you've been renowned as being one of the tougher blokes in football. You know, you're one of the serial hard men. So when you say to your wife, Carol, you say, "Look, I think I've got a bit of a problem." She must have known it was quite serious.
Yeah, you don't ask for. No. You know, you don't ask for anything unless you've got a problem.
You must have been very touched by. Did I see there was a minute's applause the other day at Nottingham Forest?
It was when we were out in hospital.
You haven't left us, by the way. You're still here.
I know, it was a bit of overkill. I talked to Gareth and he said, "Geez, he said, when you do actually peg it, there might be a Viking longboat going down the Trent on fire, maybe. Now they've done the minute's applause and you ain't dead." So I said, "Yeah, you're probably right." But they ended up, it was fantastic. I was in hospital at the time. Yeah. We were actually watching the game live and they've had a minute's applause. So I said to Carol, "Oh, I think one of the Forest players has pegged it or something." And then they show the board and it's me, you know?
Has there been a time like to reflect on it? Like, have you changed your outlook or anything like that? Have you sort of said, right,
he can't do anything.
Should I do two more?
He could start drinking, he could start...
Exactly. 2 gigs a week now.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm so matter of fact, it's ridiculous. When I was playing for Newcastle, I come round the corner, I was driving home one day, I come around the corner and a bin lorry lost control, big refuse truck, was rolling sort of from side to roof to side to wheels, coming at me, taking the whole road up.
Oh, wow.
Its last bounce landed straight on the roof of my car. I'd done the only thing. Do you remember James Bond, where he goes to drive under a lorry and he goes down?
Yeah.
That come through my mind. I'd stopped my car, that come through my mind. I laid across the passenger side. What was I? I was about 36,
It's a near-death experience then, really. I mean,
yeah, and the bin lorry bounced up in the air and landed wheels down. So the rear wheels landed on the front engine, and the middle of the car come right through, and it just stopped right on my back. Literally, I had a white T-shirt on with an oil mark in the middle of my back. And then people say, "Oh, did you look back?" And I'm, no, not really.
That's what I felt like when Scott used to run at Ruse.
Yeah, this bin lorry weren't that size, I'm telling you, though.
I got feelings, boy. I got feelings.
Stick to Rugby is brought to you by Defender.
Why the love of rugby league?
When I was working for the FA as under-21 manager, I had a meeting with Steve McNamara, who was the England coach at the time, rugby league coach, who's Catalan's coach at the time. I had a meeting with him. That was the first semi-contact. And then Tony Smith, who was Warrington Wolves coach, yeah. Tony come and spoke at our pro licence. And I'd done my pro licence, but if there was a speaker I hadn't seen, I always went down to listen to them. And my perceptions was an Aussie rugby league coach. I thought it was all about physical prowess, beating teams up and all that. And I was so taken aback by, he talked about the process, he talked about a multitude of things that I weren't expecting. Yeah. I was impressed with him as a man. So I said to him afterwards, do you mind if I come and watch your team train? So he invited me up to Warrington. I went up. After that, he said, well, why don't you come and watch a game? So I said, all right, fine. Come to the game. Little did I know, he sat me next to him in the stand. Oh, wow. So I'm watching a game for the first time ever live, and I was impressed with it. Then all of a sudden, I went again and again and again. Now I know all the board of directors there. You go. It's become a sort of family thing. Worst day of my life was when Tony moved on from the club. I had split loyalties. Do I stay with Tony? Do I stay? By that stage, I'd been hooked and I was a fan of the club, you know. So that was probably about 15 years ago, and I've been on pre-season with them in Tenerife with Tony.
What are the similarities, you think, between the football and the rugby league guys?
I tell you where there isn't a similarity, Scott, is the disconnect. I think in my profession, the fans say there's a real disconnect now between us and the players, us and the clubs, the financial aspect of it. I don't see that in rugby league. I go there at the end of the game, the players walk the perimeter of the pitch, they sign autographs, they do everything with the fans. The fans are much closer to the players, which I admire.
You've seen we had Doddy, didn't we? And MMD, and unfortunately they had Rob Burrows and Kevin Simply. What he does for it, the whole community come together, don't they?
Exactly that. As I say, the unity of rugby league is incredible. It doesn't matter, I've been to some fundraisers for Rob and whatever, and what Kevin's done has been absolutely immense. Yeah. You know what I mean? It really has. But it doesn't surprise me. Yeah. And, I mean, I know one of Tony Smith's players, Mossy Massoa, got injured in a scrum situation or in a collapsing situation. And I went to see him at the spinal unit in Wakefield. Yeah. Tony said to me, would I pop along? I said, of course, no problem. So I went there, and this fella, honestly, they said, he won't walk again, he won't do this, he won't do that. We walked into the ward, and he was in the gym helping others. Yeah. That was his mentality. He said, I'll walk out of here in a month's time. And he did. He did, yeah. It was incredible. The strength of character and mindset to say, I've got a problem, but I tell you what, I'm in here and I'm going to help others.
So the way you're speaking, did rugby was ever on your agenda at all? Not even rugby league or rugby union, just rugby full stop?
I used to play rugby union at school, but I was very small. I didn't grow until I left school, and I can honestly tell you, I was the biggest coward on a rugby pitch the world's ever seen. I was in the team. Hang on. Is there anyone else you could think of?
Hang on.
In this room. So I played to kick the ball over the post. Right. That was my game.
So you were in the back. What position do you?
I was either full back or wing forward, blindside.
What's your greatest day out for watching Warrington to date? What would you say? Was it the Vegas trip? Was it a particular win? Can you remember?
Probably a Challenge Cup victory. We beat St Helens. I was sat next to Johnny Vegas, who's a big St Helens fan, and he was funny, to be fair. And we went there as massive underdogs, and Darryl Clark was magnificent for us on the day, and we come back with a trophy. But I've also been to grand finals when we've been beaten as well, you know what I mean? But
the great days out, aren't they?
Oh,
they
incredible.
Are fabulous.
Incredible days.
Sam Burgess, because obviously he was rugby union, parachuted into Bath, England, back in rugby league. Have you had much to do with him?
Met him on a few occasions. He's invited me to training and one or two things which I need to take him up on and go to spend, maybe have a bit of dinner with him, that type of thing. But I've sort of caught him at games and afterwards coming, but he's done a brilliant job. He's given the old town a real lift, you know what I mean? He's got a lot of respect from the players. Yeah. We've had some highs in some of the performances, a little bit of inconsistency as well, but that's Warrington for you.
Before we finish, if you could, one person in football you played with, you thought could be the perfect rugby league player, who do you think it would have been over the years?
You've got to be good. The beauty of rugby league, you've got to be good with your feet, you've got to be good with your hands, you've got to be athletic, you've got to be mobile, you've got to be brave.
Let me disappoint you.
Okay.
I played for Wigan for 2 years.
You haven't got all those things.
Mitch is received.
You've got to be brave, I know that much. You have got to be brave to play that sport. It's tough.
Without a doubt. You know what? I think David James, the goalkeeper, might be decent because he's quick enough, he's big enough as well. He's 6'4". Yeah. I think he's
Just bang
Daft
through the
enough.
games.
Second one,
Bang
big
through the
hands.
games before the game.
He'd be like that, though.
Yeah.
Not the face, lads, not the
Yeah.
face.
And he could do you a nice little drawing after as well.
Oh, he's very good. He's
Good artist.
Yeah.
Very good artist.
Oh, he's
Very good.
I read something, Stuart, and I don't know whether this is true or not. And I can't remember what club you were signed to, but you still wanted to play football with your mates. So you fabricated this name, you played in goal,
Yeah.
you took free kicks. Is this true?
Every bit of it's true.
Can you just divulge?
When
bit
I
more
left
about
school
that.
at 16, I had nowhere to play football. So I went to my local non-league team and played there. So and then after a year or so, I signed a contract that made me, semi-pro. So I couldn't play on a Sunday morning. All my mates used to play. I was brought up in the Wembley area round here, Brent. We used to play in the West Fulham district. So for me to play, because I was playing on Saturday for Wildstone in the equivalent of the National League now, league outside the Football League.
You weren't allowed to play it.
Weren't allowed to play. So we come up with an idea. I'll change my name. And so I had an assumed identity. So
amazing.
I was a Russian goalkeeper called Yak Yanson, right?
I can see that. There's like sort of...
Give us the accent.
I never really was.
He never spoke.
Never spoke.
He never spoke.
That was
He
all
never
part of the
spoke.
mystique.
If he dies, he dies.
So, in the West Fulham district, I played as Yak Yanson. I had an orange and black goalkeeping kit. In those days, this was 1982-ish, around then.
Yeah.
I had long black shorts down to my knees with CCCP across both knees. The name Jensen was spelt out into a 1 on my back. So in those days, there was none of that going on in world football, from what
Properly
I could
done
gather.
the kit and everything. You
Right.
did it properly.
Every corner we had and every free kick I took. So I used to go up for every corner and every free kick on the edge of the box I used to take. One season I was top scorer for our team with 7. Mick the Dog White was our centre forward and only scored 6. The humiliation was immense for him. And one day, it was 1982, we were in Eltham playing. We said to the referee, would you mind, our president's died, would you mind having a minute's silence? So both teams were around the centre circle, the referee blew the whistle, everyone stood in stony silence apart from our team that were giggling like that. The minute's silence was for Leonid Brezhnev, the Russian premier who had died that year, that month. So it was just.
Did you ever
ridiculous.
get? You never got rumbled.
Only
No,
once.
you couldn't. He got 5 Russian caps.
So the only person who knew that I was not Yak Yanson was one of the other Wildstone players who used to manage Islip.
Right.
Terry Boyle, his name was. He used to shout from the stand. We got to a cup final and beat his team in the Margaret Gray cup final. Well, obviously, who the hell Margaret Gray was, I don't know, but she had a cup named after her. he used to shout, tell him your real name, Jensen, as I was taking a free kick on the edge of his box.
Oh, brilliant. That's so good.
Gosh,
Even
amazing.
after signing for Forest, you continue to be an electrician.
Well,
Is that right?
I went to Coventry first
Yeah.
as a 21-year-old. I just qualified from Brent Council as an electrician, so it was fantastic timing.
Yeah.
They said, well, keep your job open if it don't work out. I said, brilliant. Went to negotiate and was given a £30 wage cut to play in the top division as a footballer, as opposed to an electrician part-time footballer. Yeah. So I've had to take a wage cut. So I started my own business. I used to trade in the afternoons at Coventry for 2 years. When I went to join Cloughy, we had on that first meeting, we had a little negotiation. I was to have a look at his Barbara's iron that was broken. And I said to him, do you mind if I advertise in the programme as electrician? He went, no problem at all. So I had a little advert in the programme for about 2 years. So about 3.5, 4 years maybe, I traded as an electrician.
So he knew Brian Clough knew you were an electrician.
Yes. Yeah.
And he just said, as long as you look after my electricals, you can do whatever you want.
He said, have a look at it. I took it home, the element had gone. So I thought it's going to cost him more to have a new one. Because I thought, having won the European Cup back-to-back, he'd have a few quid, you know what I mean? So,
He'd have a steam iron, wouldn't he?
I thought him and Barbara can afford a new one. So I brought it back to him, and then he sort of come in the dressing room and you know, said our left back's an absolute fraud. He told me he's an electrician. He's not. He couldn't repair Barbara's iron.
But funny enough, my father was an electrician when he was growing up and everything like that. And on the 1971 Lions tour, he went to them. He said, "Oh, amazing! I've been picked to go on the Lions tour. Can I go?" And they went, "No, if you go, we've got no job when you come back." Back in the, it was amazing, wasn't it? You talk about took a pay cut and everything. You go to the Lions store for 4 months, you lose your job.
What was Brian Clough like as a manager?
Wow, I was really fortunate that I worked with him for 8 years, 7 as his captain.
Wow.
I'll give you a little timeline on the meeting process, shall I? I'm playing for Coventry and we're playing away at Nottingham Forest before I joined the club. Myself and the Forest winger have a clash. We're both down injured. The physios run on to treat us. I look up. Some geezer's holding my knee. I look at him, never seen him before in my life. It's the Forest physio. He says to me, "How old are you, son?" I went 22. He went, "Thanks," and run off. Cloughy had sent him on. Who is he? How old is he? Exactly. He was gone. Month later, I'm walking up Highfield Road, Coventry. We're playing Liverpool that night. This bloke saddles up alongside me and says, "Do you want to play for Nottingham Forest?" I went, "Yeah, all right." He went, "Give us your number." So I've give this total stranger my number. On the Monday morning, the phone went. This bloke, Alan Hill, was a goalkeeping coach at Forest. I didn't realise that. He says, "I've got Brian Clough on the phone for you." When you think Brian Clough, the great Brian Clough. Yeah. So he comes on the phone and he said, "Hey, do you want to play for me, son?" I went, "Yes, please."
That's very good.
He went, "Thank you very much," and slammed the phone down. And I thought,
that was it?
"Oh, geez, that was it." Yeah. That summer I moved there and obviously the first meeting was what you're looking for financially. We agreed that within seconds.
Yeah.
Talked a long time about East Barbara's iron, you know what I mean, and mending that. Can I have an advert in the programme? And probably the biggest story that sums him up, he liked to keep the players grounded. Yeah. So at the age of 25, I've been working for him for 2 years. One of those, I was his captain. I got picked to play for England, and you know the excitement of representing your relative nation and whatever. And to be fair, I was excited and whatever. And then you sit and think, shit, am I good enough? I'm playing Brazil at Wembley in front of 100,000 my first game. And you're nervous as a kitten thinking, am I good enough and whatever. And then one of the young apprentices the following day come down to the dressing room and went, "Manager wants to see you." So I'm thinking, brilliant, wage rise or pat on the back. I walk into his office and literally word for word, he says, "Take a seat, son." He said, "I see you're in the England squad." I said, "That's right, boss." He said, "Do you think you're good enough?" I said, "I'm not sure." He went, "I don't, get out."
That was it?
That was word for word. It was brilliant. Obviously, I thanked him for his kind words, you know what I mean, and took his advice.
And for the confidence boost.
Exactly that. But it was brilliant for me. When I look back now, I think I was nervous about going to meet with England. Now I had someone to prove wrong. Yeah. It was brilliant inspiration. Yeah. It was him saying, keep your feet on the floor, we play your wages. But from my point of view, it's brilliant.
As his captain, right? You have a working relationship as a captain, you know, you were the England captain or whatever, Wasps captain or anything. There was nothing, was there? Was there a boss? I'm thinking, there was never that, was there? Can we?
No.
There was nothing.
If you put your hand up and put your head above the parapet, no matter who you were, he would sit and wait. I remember there was once, we were a really good counter-attack side before counter-attack wasn't really invented, sort of thing. And we were playing, Tottenham come to our place, and they always used to come to our place and sit back. So we were sat back, they were sat back, they could dictate the tempo. Nothing happened. Yeah. They could dictate the tempo of the game and silence the crowd on our own turf. And this happened a couple of games. So I said, we need to get on the front foot, you know what I mean, blah, blah, blah. So he's took it all in, not said anything, you know what I mean? And then he's waited for that game where we got trumped, you know what I mean? Hey, get on the front foot, you bloody idiot! You know, that was what he did.
Were they the happiest days of your footballing career at Forest, or would you say that it was just one of many of, you know, because you obviously played at different clubs. Yeah. Would you say the time at Forest, did it get any better than that?
Probably not, no. I was really fortunate that I had, at the age of, what was I, 35, I had the opportunity to go to Newcastle in the Champions League, then to West Ham, then to Manchester City at the back end of my career up to the age of 40. But, you know, I was at Forest from the age of 23 right the way through to 35, and brilliant years. Most of those I got England caps playing Welsh Forest, and that meant more to me than anything, to be fair. So, the fans, the relationship with the fans was second to none. Incredible, really.
Hard men don't really exist, I don't think, in football. The game's a lot cleaner. There's a lot of cameras around there. You can't really get away with anything. Right. But you're one of the genuine hard men in football. Did you love those one-on-one scraps? And I suppose who was one of the toughest opponents you've come up against?
It was strange, really. I mean, I come from a non-league background, so before I had a game in pro football, I'd played 250 non-league games. I was not considered in any way, shape or form anywhere near a tough tackling fullback when I was a non-leaguer, you know. And all of a sudden, you go from there into a game and you think, hang on a minute, they're a little bit flimsy up here. So you start to build a relationship, and if the winger wants to believe that I'm going to scare the life out of him, who am I to throw cold water on that? So you perpetuate that. But the one thing, people say to me, oh, you're tough tackling, you're this, you're a hard man, blah, blah, blah. I used to say, do you know how many times in the 1,000 matches I got sent off? And they went, no. I went, 5. Because, and one of them was for swearing at the referee in the last minute because a Tottenham player kicked Roy Keane, so I was sticking up for Roy. So one was for that, one was for being the last man on the halfway line and a player come down. I must say, the first sending off I ever had was Leicester away in the League Cup, and both offences should have been prisonable sentences. They were horrific. Cloughy had said at half-time, keep yourself out of trouble the second half, and on 47 minutes I missed time one. And when I come off then, he was livid. He would not speak to me for a week.
Because you missed him?
Well, no, because it took him 2 minutes. Took him 2 minutes to ignore him.
He had the mentality that said, if you let us down now, you'll let us down when it really matters. So I knew I couldn't readily go and get sent off So you always played right up to the line. You always were very courteous to the referees and kept on their good side. But, you know, I never billed myself as a tough man.
Who would be the toughest player you played against then? The one-on-one battles?
I really struggled. Sometimes people would expect the big names that you throw out, but for me it weren't. It was a fella called Mark Ward. He used to play for West Ham and Everton, had a non-league background, so he was tough. Low centre of gravity, could go inside and out and run at you very direct. He caused me as more problems than probably most players, to be fair.
Yeah, we thought, should we take it easy on you because you're on stick to rugby?
Don't do that.
And yeah, that's the answer we come up
with. So we're just going to see now if you can tackle rugby style.
I was involved in a penalty shootout for Cardiff against Leicester in the semi-final of the Heineken Cup, and all we had to do was hit a shot over the goalposts from the 22. Yeah, it was quite easy. We ended up losing that thanks to Martin Williams, who missed a kick. But then
you got yours.
Yeah, I got mine.
He bangs on all right, Jack.
I'll show you after, Stuart. You'd be proud of me. Just drilled it straight through, left-footed. But
that's what he did.
But after about 5-10 minutes, we got into the change room. After that game, he was obviously devastated because he'd missed. But then all of a sudden, you know, being in a rugby environment, you can't let people off the hook, can you? So I got up and said, boys, put your hands together for Stuart Pearce. Put your hands together for Chris Waddle. So,
the next generation. You're in safe hands, eh?
But what I want to talk to you about was the pressure of 1996 and that penalty that was on your shoulders after missing, obviously, the one 6 years ago. Like, what was the feeling like stepping up to that penalty spot?
I had two really, if we got time for this.
Yeah.
I'll take you back to 1990 when I missed a penalty in a World Cup semi-final and you think your world's crashed down. And we go into the dressing room afterwards and I get pulled out to do a drugs test with Schultz, a goalie for us, and 2 German players. So we go into a room, we're sat opposite each other like this. You can't leave the room until you've had a urine test. Schultz walks in, has a quick waz and walks off. So there's me and 2 German players. They've just won a World Cup semi-final. I've just lost one and missed a penalty in it. The 3 of us never said a word for 2 hours. They just sat there with their heads down like that. And I thought afterwards, I didn't realise it at the time, my head was where it shouldn't have been. You know, you're feeling sorry for yourself, all of those type of things. humility in success taught me a real big lesson that day, massive lesson. You know, they didn't say a word. They just won a World Cup semi-final and going to a World Cup and eventually won it. Never said a word. 6 years later, we get the opportunity to go into a penalty shootout, and I'm thinking, unless I get to my manager quickly, he might overlook me because of the history of missing penalties. I don't know what his mindset is, but so I get to him as quick as I can and say, I'm taking the third penalty. And Terry Venables looked at me and went, you sure? And I went, well, I was before you said that. Now I've got a little bit milky on myself.
Didn't have you down as taking one.
No,
but
didn't seem like it, yeah.
And you'd never had a conversation prior to that?
No.
If a situation arose, you might...
No, in those days it was, we'll get to that and we'll cross that bridge with volunteers and that type of thing.
Talk us through, you're walking up to the
Bizarrely.
penalty spot. You're walking up to the penalty spot. Do you remember what's going through your head? What you're thinking about?
Well, I decided pre-tournament that I was going to retire from international football. I think it was 34 years old then. You know, and I thought, well, it's a brilliant time to knock it on its head. Tournament in our own backyard. And you're walking up and you're thinking to yourself, I mean, the nervousness that I felt from the crowd, they were more nervous for me than I was, and I was papping myself, I've got to say. But it was really one of those that the intensity of the stadium was incredible because they knew my history. You know, there was only 6 years difference, but I was synonymous with missing a penalty in a World Cup semi-final, and then all of a sudden, 6 years later, we need me to score to contribute to us going through. So I was nervous, make no mistake about that, but I just had a feeling the whole stadium were just holding their breath and saying, anyone can miss, but don't let it be him. Mentality, you know.
It was like that.
Yeah.
Did you do anything in that 6 years? Did you do anything to think, right, if I ever in this situation again, and you said, you walked up and said, I'm taking the third penalty, did you do anything? Did you practice them more? Did you change it? Did you change the way you practice? Did you put yourself under pressure in games? Did you do anything to make that penalty the good one?
Yeah. It was, we spoke about Mark Crossley earlier. He was my goalkeeper at Forest. So what I used to do, every Friday afternoon, I had 10 penalties with him. 5 of them, I would say which direction they're going, what side, and 5 of them I wouldn't.
Oh, wow.
So he was a brilliant yardstick for me. If I could beat him telling him which way I was going, I knew I was taking good penalties. Yeah. So he contributed greatly in my preparation almost, you know. 10 penalties on a Friday was regular for me. And
so as you were walking up, were you telling the goalkeeper in your own head which way you were going to put it?
No, I was trying to. I had eyes like Ben Turpin, trying to get in the eyes to go.
It's one of the great sporting moments certainly in this country. Yeah. Your face, the sort of relief. The emotional kind of release, the relief. But as you say, everyone who was there live, everyone who was watching in the UK and Ireland, everyone who was watching globally felt the same for you, mate. It was, and the face, I'll never forget it, mate. It was unbelievable.
It was like when McIlroy won the Masters.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same feeling, you know what I mean? About the pain and it escalated the success.
Yeah, the story pre that as well, like, that's the picture I signed the most, that celebration picture. And people say to me, what do you think of when you see that picture and that penalty? And I tell them a story that they're not expecting. I say, it takes me back to 1994, 2 years earlier. They said, what do you mean by that? I said, well, the new manager at the time, I was England captain at the time in 94, Terry Venables rang me up, and the first conversation we had was him telling me, you're not going to be the left back anymore, it's going to be Graham Lasso, and the phone went quiet. So he's expecting me I think I was 32 at the time, something of that nature, to retire from international football. I didn't. I said, if you think I'm good enough, I'll fight for my place. So I went on a journey for the next year and a half where I didn't play a great deal. I supported Graham, and I was a bit part player until Graham broke his ankle in November, which wasn't me, by the way. Okay,
It was your Russian friend.
Yeah, exactly. I had to sort of sacrifice a year and a half of not playing for my country, which hurt. Make no mistake, it hurt a little bit, especially when you've been the captain prior to that. So when I see that picture, it reminds me of, as all of us sports people know, when you go on that journey, the good times are marginal, but the injuries and the journey and the dedication and the things you have to give up on that journey are all there for all to see.
You're glad you got redemption? a chance to redeem.
Well, I would be doing a similar type of podcast in Germany now if I hadn't got redemption. It's fair to say.
I wouldn't speak to you, mate. They'd be very quiet.
Yeah, exactly.
That team, I know you didn't ultimately go on and win the competition, but that team under Terry Venables, a bit like the time you had with Cloughy, from a national point of view, that felt like a brilliant time. I mean, I certainly remember growing up watching you guys playing against Holland, you know, and Scotland. It felt like a great England team to be part of and a good atmosphere, good environment.
Yeah, everything sort of come together at the right time. We couldn't get over the line like you boys did, you know, in 2003. But the bottom line is, we ended up sort of had a team which you look round the ranks. There was ability, there was leadership, there was strength of character. It had a bit of everything, and Gascoigne right in the middle.
I was going to ask about that because you had a bit of craziness as well. I mean, genius, because what a footballer.
Yeah.
But I mean, playing with him and just training with him, just give us a couple of little moments.
He was a unique character. But when you look at a player, he could edit, he could run, he could tackle, he could score goals. He'd done everything as a midfield player, and he had the arrogance in wherever he stepped onto a pitch, say, give me the ball. You know when sometimes you go on as a bit part player like me and you think, bloody hell, am I good enough to be here? Gazza had that outwardness of saying, give me the ball, I'm as good as anyone here. And it was brilliant, a good arrogance. We went to the World Cup in 1990 and we sat down first night. Bobby Robson sat us down. There was probably about 6 or 7 of us and never been to a major tournament before. Didn't have a clue what it looked like, and we're in a World Cup in Italy. And he sat down and talked to us for about 40 minutes about what it would entail to win a World Cup, you know, training and playing at heat, knockout football, potential penalty shootouts, all of those type of things he talked about for 40 minutes. And we're hanging on his every word. Gazza's new to tournament football, I am, Platty, Des Walker, we're all there. Next day we go and train. We sat by the swimming pool in the afternoon, under the shade, resting, as Bobby's told us. There's a commotion on the diving board to our left. I look up. Gascoigne's on the diving board. He's mummified himself in bog roll. You can't see who it is. Like from head to toe, he's bouncing up and down, giggling. So when he starts laughing, you knew it was anyway. He's launched himself into the water, swum a length underwater. The bog rolls floated off. Gazza's jumped out the other end naked and walked through members of the public naked, giggling to himself. So we're loving it. Every moment he's keeping you amused. We walk into dinner that night. Bobby walks in after we're all sat down and he's got a face like thunder. He says, no one leave this room. No one ever leave this room before I've talked to you tonight. I'm thinking, oh no, he's found out about Gazza, you know what I mean? Only the night before he's telling us how to conduct ourselves, and then the Clown Prince is on the diving board and God knows what else. So I'm thinking, how is Bobby going to deal with this, you know? Is he going to send him home? What's he going to do? Brilliant how we dealt with it. We're all sat there and we're thinking, shit, I hope he ain't going to come down too strong on him, you know what I mean? But he's got to make a statement of some description. He just looks across the room, he doesn't catch anyone's eye and goes, gentlemen, there's an idiot amongst us. And like, only the idiot looked round to see who it actually was, you know what I mean? So Gazza's looking to see who the idiot in the room is. He don't know he's talking about him. So it's just brilliant, like, and he sat there and I'm thinking, it was brilliant on a couple of fronts. Gazza's front for not having a clue he's even talking about him, and the manager for just dealing with a situation. He's not named him.
The great Bobby Robson tells us, I think it was either the Belgian game or the Germany game, I can't remember which one, where all the preparation's done. Now, the night before a game, it's interesting to see what players, what mindset. You don't want to overplay, don't want to get all wound up too early. So you all go back to your rooms, you might play a bit of cards, you might watch a bit of telly, whatever. True story, apparently, you know, Bobby's there, I don't know whether he had a cigar or whatever, but he's there with a glass of wine just thinking, I can't do any more now to prepare the team until I speak to him tomorrow. And he sees the tennis courts in the background and Gazza's playing tennis against some random hotel guest.
He's took 2 Yanks on, they're playing each other, so he says, you get yourself down the far end. So he's taking them on. I think he went to 5 sets, right? This is a story. I think he's gone to 5 sets the day before a game. Bear in mind, it's baking in Italy. We're playing Germany the next day in a World Cup semi-final. So he's got him to match point, and Bobby sort of walks nearby. Gazza's spied him and legs it back to his room. Chris Waddle's his roommate, gets in, jumps into bed. I mean, he's sweating like you never know. His chops are all red. He's lying in there. Next thing, big knock on the door. Gazza says to Chrissy Waddle, he says, tell him it weren't me, right? Whoever it is, tell him it weren't me. So Chris opens the door and he stood there and Bobby says, where's the idiot? And before he can answer, he walks past Chris Waddle straight over and Gazza's there. So Gazza's trying to do the old, nonsense like that. He said, you bloody idiot, what are you doing, blah, blah, blah. He said, I ain't been doing it. I saw you on the tennis court. It weren't me. He's got the tennis racket next to him.
Can imagine 2 balls in his pocket.
I'd have a match point going, right?
Yeah. Now you know, I'll get back out there and finish him off. God's sake. Just brilliant.
But then people like that actually make a tournament. People like that actually create an environment where you think, you know what, it's brilliant.
That's why that era probably from 90 to 96 was so fondly remembered because of Gascoigne was front and centre for all of it, you know, brilliant.
Just talking about dead ball, we saw Declan Rice score 2 amazing goals recently for Arsenal. I'll be honest, I'm a football fan, Chelsea. I never even knew Declan Rice took free kicks.
Yep.
I mean, you would obviously coached him.
Yeah.
And so you know that. I mean, you were obviously a dead ball specialist yourself. Just put it to bed now. Who was the best dead ball specialist that you played with or against, would you say? Or certainly, you coached or part of that England group, because you played with some special players.
Yeah, I mean, Beckham was good at it, renowned, but they only get good at it because and I used to take a lot of free kicks as well. You've got to know what you're good at technically. Don't try and emulate somebody else. I see so many players trying to emulate, you know, Ronaldo or whatever, and they've not got the technique to do so. And then understand the best way to score a goal. I worked on, because I'm quite analytical as a free kick taker, I always used to hit it goalkeeper's side. Because why did I do that? The main reason was because I said, if I take 10 free kicks, 8 out of the 10 are going to be on target. So you've got to stop them. So I always work to the stats in that way inclined. I see so many players stand up, go over the top of the wall and it goes sailing wide or hits the wall. I said, why would you do that? And then it was quite refreshing to see Declan Rice walk up and just hit it. And then I see, for me, there's a tick box what you've got to do if you're taking free kicks. You get a couple of your teammates to block the goalkeeper's view. Yeah. You tell those teammates what way you want them to move, either left or right. So if you've got a wall there, let's say, and your teammate's there and you're taking the free kick that way, tell them to move in front of the wall. It's common sense, but players don't realise that. They give no instruction to those players.
That was his second. The second free kick was incredible.
Imagine being one of the defenders in the wall lining up when Pearcey gets the ball.
Oh my God!
And you're thinking, I might go the other side of the wall today.
Well, close your eyes, wouldn't you?
I'd lay on the floor.
The one thing you did do is put your foot right through it, mate.
But I never hit it with my laces. It was always like Declan's hit it with inside the foot. Especially with the balls now, you can generate power without really unleashing the power on it. And I used to say to my centre-halves, they used to stand maybe 2-3 yards away. Yeah. And I used to use their knackers as my guide. I never used to look at the goal. I used to say to them, I'm going to smash it straight in your midriff and I want you moving left or right, whichever it was. Yeah.
I must talk to you about a young Roy Keane. We're on Stick to Rugby, but obviously he's one of the stars on our TV now. I mean, Stick to Football, I think he's very refreshing as a pundit because he says it the way it is. Yeah. What was he like when you first came across him?
He signed, bear in mind, I think he signed as a 17-year-old or 18-year-old, not sure which, and I was 10 years older than him and the club captain. So I was injured. We were playing away at Liverpool. I was injured, so I didn't travel, and I was in with a physio. This was my first contact with Roy and hearing his name. Oh. So I hadn't been on the training pitch a couple of days in that week. We've ended up, I said to the physio the day after the Liverpool game, I said, how did the game go yesterday? And he went, yeah, and talked about the game. And I said, who played right wing? And he said, oh, that was Roy Keane. And I said, where was Ray Houghton? I'm talking about Liverpool. He's talking about our team.
Oh, yeah.
So I said, where was Ray Houghton? He went, no. He said, Ray Houghton played for them. He said, Roy Keane played right wing for us. I said, who's Roy Keane? Never heard of him. Yeah. Honestly, I'd never heard of him.
Right.
And he said, oh, we signed him, last week or whatever. He's trained a couple of times. Cloughy put him straight in the first team and off you go. It's incredible. I mean, for a couple of years for us, brilliant. Energy to get from box to box. For a young kid, he had an edge to him. You could see he had that edge, and it is there now, you know what I mean? But as a player, he played him central defence, he played him in midfield, played him right side of mid. Play him where you want, he'd be your best player. He was one of those individuals, but he had that edge to him, that little, a bit of nastiness, a will to win, call it what you want, but he had something that you knew that mentality was going to drive him wherever he wanted to go.
It's the tunnel, you see him in the tunnel. When we were having the tunnel, do you ever have a tunnel experience? Were you a stepper on the foot, a little pincher behind, were you a looker?
To be fair, in the tunnels I never did. I was always one of these. I have got no interest in shaking your hand in the tunnel or getting eye contact with you at all. It's you're getting it in the first minute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm going to put a statement down within the game to get our fans at it, that type of thing. So it's never all that interchange with me. It was that Russian steely coldness. You know what I mean?
I don't understand. We've discussed this at length on this podcast. The modern day rugby players seem to be very comfortable chatting. When you're playing against someone, they're all chatting to each other like an hour before the game.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I'm old school. I never spoke to anyone.
No,
right? Apart from
we had a good stare. We had a
little stare. You are only my friend after the I wouldn't talk to him pre-game. He's captain the clubs that we've been in. I wouldn't shake his hands. I've got no interest at all before the game. Once the game's finished, different matter altogether, you know?
You talked about Roy Keane there and him being a youngster and having that edge. What was the social scene like at Forest with him?
It was a strange one, because I was, at that stage, become a little bit older, so I was the influence in the dressing room with the music, obviously. We had a really good gig scene as well, so we used to get I'll tell you a story here. Oasis are playing Main Road in '96, and as luck happens, the football fixtures fell brilliantly. We're away at Old Trafford that day. So we used to get Chaz, the stadium manager, to bring the club minibus to come and meet us. So we've got Chaz turned up, whatever gig we're going to. So where was Dave? So off we go. It's about 8 of us. We go across the Main Road, and we go into Main Road, and the Oasis gig's going on, and then we come out of there. Chaz is waiting for us again with a minibus, and we go, Chaz, we're not going straight back to Nottingham. Hacienda tonight for us. So we're in at the Hacienda, and just brilliant, like. And we used to have a really good social scene in regard. We might go to the boxing, the Eubank, Ben and Watson fights were on at the time, so Chaz used to meet us or jump in and off we go. So there was about a dozen of us that loved our music, you know. I come in one day, Scott Gemmell, one of our players, Archie Gemmell's son, he was mad into his indie music, so he used to go to a lot of bands. He saw Oasis before any of us had heard of
Stone
Oasis.
Roses, all of them.
Yeah, he was all over that. So we walked in one day and he said, Oasis are playing Knebworth, can you sort tickets? So I said, leave it with me, I'll see what I can do. So I went straight to the club office, said to Carol, the secretary, I said, send a letter to Creation Records, Alan McGee, the manager, headed notepaper, Nottingham Forest. I asked Stuart Pearce, would it be possible for you to sort out some hospitality or tickets? Can we buy them? Happy to do anything for the Knebworth gig. So, unbelievably, within a couple of days, a reply come back. It'd be our pleasure to host you for the Knebworth gig. So, brilliant, we're going now. I walk in, I say, Scotty, it's all sorted. I look at the date of it, and we're in Ireland pre-season. We fly back into Birmingham probably at about 10 o'clock in the morning for the gig on the Sunday at Knebworth. Scotty says to me, I'll sort out the transport. So I said, OK, fine. So we come out of Birmingham Airport. Half the squad go left to the coach going back to Nottingham. The other half do a right, where Scotty's organised the transport. Bear in mind, we've always had it drummed in us with Cloughy. Frank Clark was the manager then. Yeah. Keep your head down, no ostentatious nonsense and all this. Yeah. We turn right, there's a white stretch limo waiting. He went, da-na.
So no Chaz in the minibus has gone.
No, we sat Chaz off with Knebworth. So we all get in there. I said, well, the windows are blacked out. I said, look, keep the doors and the windows shut as we drive past the coach. Don't show Frank. I've promised Frank, look, skipper, make sure you look after him pre-season, 100% gaffer, no problem at all. As we pulled past the back of the coach, Mark Crossley, Big Norm, had the sunroof open, 2 bottles of champagne at the manager like that. He'd done the best ever double take you've ever seen. He was like, what the fucking hell's going on here? And as we've drove by, we get to Knebworth, it had been raining, it runs aground. Yeah. We have to get out and push the bloody thing into Knebworth Park. But what a gig. Brilliant. Brilliant.
It was like the Jolly Boys out then.
It was good fun.
Best Oasis song, just while we're on it. Hey.
Champagne Supernova.
Yeah, that's Champagne Supernova.
Yeah, I won't go against that.
Stick to Rugby was brought to you by Defender.
It's been honestly a great pleasure listening.
No, it's been
fantastic. We've got some. We call them community questions.
We do. Your hero growing up?
I probably had 2 footballing heroes. Gordon Banks was probably my first, and Dave Webb, who used to play for Chelsea and QPR.
I wouldn't be where I am today without
mental strength.
Oh, nice. Best player you played with?
Paul Gascoigne.
Your favourite match from your playing career?
Maybe England-Holland, the game.
4-1, beautiful.
The 4-1. It was probably the best game of football in the best football team I've ever played in.
Nice. Your favourite goal?
I scored a diving header for Nottingham Forest away at Peterborough. It wasn't a great goal. It's from about a yard out, but a year earlier, when Roy left the club and Nigel Clough left the club and we got relegated, I stayed at the club, and that loyalty was repaid by the fans and whatever, and cemented a relationship between fans and player. And that goal, we needed a point to get promoted that day, and that made it 2-2.
Beautiful.
Oh, great one. Moment you wish you could have back?
I'm stood on a penalty spot in 1990 and I've got a German goalkeeper, and I know he's just going to jump slightly to his right and dangle his legs like that. If I had that moment back, I would have slid the ball to his left-hand side.
Most inspiring manager you've played for?
I'd have to say Brian Clough. You know, I've been to brilliant managers, but I had Brian for 8 years and he was a great influence, both as a person and as a footballer. Best player you've coached? I'm going to name 2 now. As under-21 manager, I coached James Milner and Jordan Henderson, and they were both brilliant professionals that led the team in what they done on the pitch and, more importantly, off the pitch. So I think if you're a manager, you go away and you can sleep at night knowing full well you've got 2 individuals.
They're not outside the sunroof.
Exactly, you've got it. You've got it.
Favourite sport outside of football?
Rugby league, by a million miles.
Which football team do you support?
I was a Queen's Park Rangers fan as a kid. Had a trial as a 13-year-old and got let go after 6 months. So that is the team I did support as a youngster. Nice.
Favourite current footballer?
I like Bernardo Silva at Manchester City because he does all the things right. If you stop the action at any given time when he has the ball at his feet and say, what should you do now? He does everything correct in my mind. He passes to a teammate, he draws players to him to free space up, his way to pass, everything technically is fantastic.
And final one, if you had to pick a 5-a-side team from the best players you've played alongside.
Including myself?
Yeah, you can feature.
Dave Seaman in goal, myself and Des Walker, Brian Robson, Paul Gascoigne.
Are you captain?
No, there's Brian Robson, godlike creature. He'd have to captain the team.
Stuart, we just very quickly, just on the Nottingham Forest now, you must be very proud to see them back up the top of the league.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they had a wobble recently, but potential Champions League. Do you spend a bit of the odd game there still?
Yeah, as I say, I mean, I cover games all the time, all over the country, but I spend plenty of time there. It's a heartland for me, Nottingham. You know, I'm there doing a couple of audiences with later this month. In fact, the Thursday, Friday prior to the semi-final, FA Cup semi-final on the Sunday, so which I'll be covering as well. So it's been brilliant. The manager gets the club. You know, sometimes Cloughy had put his stamp on that football club, and the history of the club is there for all to see. Some managers have come in there and tried to buck against it almost. He hasn't. He's embraced that. The fans have embraced him, and the club at the moment, there's an atmosphere around that football club at the moment that I've not even seen in my time as a player.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
And listen, your Desert Island fancy weekend, Warrington win the Challenge Cup final on the Saturday. Who's your gig on the Sunday?
Wow. I tell you what, if the Stranglers and the Pistols are playing together, I'm going to see the Stranglers and the Pistols at Margate, Dreamland, in August. So if those two done a sort of combo, I'd be delighted.
Super band.
Yeah,
that'd be a proper. Warrington come up trumps on the Saturday, and then you get the Stranglers.
And then we stayed at Wembley for the gig of those two. It'd be nice.
And Chaz drives you there.
Yeah. We'll get Chaz out of retirement.
We get him out.
Listen, thank you for being our guest on
It's been brilliant.
It's been
so
anything
good
but
to see you so fit and well, my friend.
We're hanging in there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well done.